Hi everyone, welcome back to the Good to Know channel. If you've ever wondered whether marijuana is actually bad for your brain, or if it's just a plant claim holds up, today we're going straight to the science. We're talking memory, IQ, brain structure, adolescent development, and what happens when people stop using it. Before we dive in, if this kind of clear evidence-based content is useful to you, I'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. It genuinely helps the channel grow so that I can keep making these videos and sharing solid information with you. Alright, let's get into it. First, a quick note on the words themselves. You'll hear me say both marijuana and cannabis. They're basically interchangeable in everyday conversation. Marijuana is the common name most people use for the dried flowers and leaves that get smoked, vaped, or eaten. Cannabis is the scientific and botanical name for the whole plant, Cannabis sativa and related species. In medical, research, and official settings, the preferred term is now cannabis. So that's what you'll see in studies and from places like NIDA. I'll most likely use cannabis going forward, but I'll switch between the two so it feels natural. Cannabis's main psychoactive compound is THC. It locks onto cannabinoid receptors that are densely packed into areas that handle memory, attention, decision-making, and coordination, especially the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. That's why when you get high, you can feel relaxed or creative, but also foggy, forgetful, or a little off in your timing. Those acute effects are pretty well established. Working memory, short-term recall, attention, and processing speed take a hit while THC is in your system. Most people notice it. The bigger question is, what happens with regular or heavy use over time? Here's where age really matters. The brain is still wiring itself hard through the teenage years and into your mid-20s, creating connections, building myelin, strengthening the networks that support impulse control and long-term planning. Introducing regular high THC cannabis during that window appears to interfere with that process more than it does in fully mature adult brains. One of the most cited long-term studies followed a group of people in New Zealand from childhood into mid-adulthood. Those who started using cannabis heavily in adolescence and kept it up showed an average IQ drop of about 6 to 8 points by their late 30s. The decline was concentrated in the early onset group. People who started as adults didn't show the same pattern. And when the heavy adolescent users later quit, they didn't fully bounce back to their earlier cognitive levels. Other research has found associations with thinner prefrontal cortex, smaller hippocampal volume, and altered connectivity in regular users, especially those with heavier or long-term use histories. Verbal memory and learning seem particularly sensitive. Some of these differences show up even after controlling for other factors, though scientists are careful to note that causality isn't always ironclad and lifestyle or genetic factors can play roles too. High-potency products change the equation. Modern cannabis is often much stronger in THC than what was around decades ago. Higher doses and more frequent use are linked to bigger cognitive effects and greater risk of dependence. The good news? A lot of the residual cognitive fog that heavy users experience tends to improve with sustained abstinence, sometimes within weeks to a month or so. Meta-analysis suggests the deficits shrink the longer someone stays clean. Complete recovery isn't guaranteed for everyone, especially those who started young and used heavily for years, but meaningful improvement is common. So is cannabis or marijuana bad for your brain? Well, it depends. Occasional use in adulthood for most healthy people doesn't appear to cause dramatic permanent damage. Regular or heavy use, especially starting in your teens, however, carries clear risks to memory, learning, attention, and possibly IQ trajectory. The developing brain is more vulnerable. High THC products raise the stakes further. If you're using, the evidence points towards delaying start until adulthood, keeping frequency and potency lower, and taking real breaks if you notice cognitive changes. If you've been a heavy user and are thinking about cutting back or quitting, the research suggests that your brain can regain a meaningful amount of function. That's the current picture from the major reviews and longitudinal work. Science is still evolving, especially with today's stronger products, but the caution around adolescent use is consistent across many studies. What do you think? Does this match anything you've noticed personally or with people around you? Drop it in the comments. And if you found this helpful, a subscribe and a like really helps the channel keep going. Thanks for watching, take care of that brain of yours, and I'll see you in the next one.